Today we're going to look at the type 3, the performer and the achiever. We're going to sit down with our resident expert, Dr. Tio, to learn more. Let's listening to our interview. I want to welcome again our expert, Dr. Tio, who is going to give us an overview on the type 3. Welcome, Dr. Tio.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me once again. It's always my pleasure to be in this kind of discussion as far as Enneagram is concerned.
What can you tell us about the type 3 and the triad? So we learned about the type 2 last time, and I know the type 3 is in that same triad. So what can you tell us about them and their triad?
Sure. I don't know if you remember during our introduction, we used this equilateral triangle because it's easy to spot on, the 9, 3, and 6. Type 3 actually is the one who is right in the core of the heart center. Type 3 has this great desire to be connected with other people. Mm-hmm. And yet, at the same time, they have the greatest fear in connecting with other people, because there is the woundedness is there's a big what if, what if I will experience rejection, and the basis of that is the belief that if you are a quote unquote a loser, that is equivalent to someone that is hard to connect with or hard to love, because the idea of this woundedness is that as a child, it's quite natural for us to give and receive love. Nobody taught a child how to actually do that. It's just natural. They would love you, give their best embrace and hug. They're not afraid to connect. And then they are also there to receive the kind of love. I mean, their arms is as big as the sky, we can receive everything. But in the process, as we grow up, of course, it's an imperfect world. And I'm not quite sure if this is because of 100% because of the environment. And I'm not quite sure, maybe it's also something that we have, if we are a 3, uniquely formed in us. We are quite sensitive with this kind of relationship risk that we take as we grow up, especially if a child experiences love that is not quite genuine. If a child experiences love because they have done something, and then unloved because they fail, they take that seriously. And the message that comes to their mind is, I will be loved if I have accomplished something.
Wow.
And I won't be loved if I fail. So losing actually is a very painful kind of experience for a type 3, because the equivalence of that is being unlovable. So as they grow, they learn how to, in their mind, the lens that they're using, if you want to actually experience love in this world, make sure that you accomplish some of your goals. It depends on the kind of field that you have. There are goals that they don't mind, and if they lose, it's okay. Maybe it's not the heart of their core need at that moment. Mm-hmm. But you will see a pattern for type 3s that sometimes they think that appearance is very important, because appearance would mean success, or at least you are not a loser, and then you don't have to experience that painful rejection in life, because people could see that you are somewhat succeeding in this world, and maybe you will be loved. Wow. So the gift of a 3 actually is they are determined. They know how to accomplish goals. They know how to get what they want. At the same time, they are not as pushy as an 8, which is also sharing a woundedness of love. And they are not too much in their head as a 7, which is also in the area of woundedness of love. But the 3 actually has this wonderful ability to be diplomatic, this wonderful ability to find their ways in a very manipulative way.
Wow.
They are seen sometimes as, oh, this guy is very subtle. He knows how to get what he wants, and even faking things. Or by the way, I think this is a good place where we will touch a bit about the favorite sin of a type 3.
Yeah, I definitely want to ask about that spiritual sin.
Sure. Which is deceit, the deception. And it's not because they are always intending to deceive others. And sometimes the very person that they deceive is themselves, in believing that if I can achieve a particular goal, the tendency is that's a very good place or time to divorce yourself from your personhood and then just embrace roles. Whether you're a doctor, a pastor, a teacher, if this role can give you a certain weight in the society, or at least it's in your circle of friends, it doesn't have to be in the society, where you are perceived as someone who's quite accomplished or successful. Sometimes you sacrifice your own personhood just to stay in that role, with the belief that that role is more lovable than the person. And at the same time, if they reject the role, the person won't get hurt, because there is a split. It's hard for them actually to recognize that. So the very first person that's being deceived is themselves.
Wow.
And then in the process of maintaining that, sometimes they can sacrifice some of the principle they embrace as a person so that they can stay in their role. Sacrificing those principles can also be seen as, people who would sometimes take the shortcut just to be successful. And yet deep inside of them, they don't want to actually do that. But because of this great to sustain this kind of love, affection, and attention from others, they have this belief that it's the role actually who would do that, not the person inside them. So that's the struggle for 3.
So then what I'm hearing then is that they want to connect, but in their desire to connect, this drive, this determination that they have to say, okay, if I perform, I'll connect, or people will like me enough to connect with me. But that same drive will cause them to do maybe deceitful things that they wouldn't really want to do. And it can also cause them to harm those around them because they're putting the image before the individual.
That's right. A 3 can relate with an 8 because an 8 is having a hard time believing that self is lovable.
Wow.
The 3 has that. The difference between an 8 and a 3 is this. An 8 would protect themselves with much energy and power. Because I'm lovable, I'm not going to give you a chance to emphasize that I'm lovable. That's what an 8 is actually doing. But a 3, they don't actually do that. They dance. So in their dance, through accomplishment, they are convincing maybe self and others that there is a space and a place for me where you can actually love and embrace. So when a 3 sees that role, for example, and this role is quite attractive. It's even themselves, it's actually their own way of influencing themselves to believe that they are lovable because look, this role is great. But you separate the role from the person and you invite a type 3 to actually just look at the person. They will, hold a second, this is too much, this is too painful. I will just go back to my role if you want to actually deal with what I was doing. They are having a hard time actually just like an 8, embracing the personhood, because that's what the relationship with self in terms of love is connected. Now, a type 3 also can relate to the type 7.
Mm-hmm.
A type 7, they don't have any problem loving themselves. The problem of a type 7, it will, just to establish this triad here, the problem with type 7 is actually they don't actually trust others that they have this ability to love themselves. This is a struggle of a 3 as well. Okay? A 7 would take you to a place where there is pain-free, so that you don't have to fail in loving me. Let's just talk about something that is quite positive, and let's talk about hope, and let's stay on the surface. That's what a 7 does, so that they don't have to experience that pain. A type 3, instead of doing that, when you don't trust others, in loving you, a type 3 would just, again, engage others, but you can love me. It's easy for you to love me if I'm a role.
Wow.
So you don't have to you don't have to deal me, the person inside of me. You just deal with the role. Especially if the role has this virtue of a pastor. A pastor is a straight person. It's a focus on being good. It's like a type 2, the virtue, helpfulness, and things like that. They can embrace that role perfectly and hiding the person behind that. And then people can actually love them, and they enjoy that. They don't have any problem actually, doing that. There are other types who just can't stay long in that kind of almost ingenuous kind of way of relating with others. They can last long in that kind of relationship.
I mean, I love the fact how you point out this triad that's not seen on typical Enneagrams of the woundedness, in terms of how the 3 is connected to the 8 and also connected to the 7. But then there is that triad that we do see on the Enneagram, which is the integration, disintegration. And we know that that's the 6 and the 9. Can you tell us a little bit about how that plays into a 3 when they feel secure or when they feel under stress?
Sure. When they are stressed, they tend to actually withdraw, just like a 9. Okay, this is their integration, because a 9 is very good in building their own shell. They blend, but they're protected. A 3 becomes a 9 when they are actually disintegrating for the sake of being protected. But a 3 becomes a 6, when they try to achieve more and find answer, and don't just trust the role, but actually even trust and discover who they are. Just like a 6 is a never-ending seeker. They seek for the truth and authenticity. That is a big integration for a 3, so this is, I think, a pathway for them to actually experience the gift of a 6, and then the gift of a 9 to protect who they are. I hope you don't take this as they're behaving bad if they are on 9, and they're behaving good and they're on 6. No, both this triad, they offer them something that would actually help them grow. One is a space for them to withdraw and preserve who they are, and maybe they can experience a deeper reflection in as a 9, because 9s are very reflective. But the unhealthier kind of way towards disintegration is just distancing themselves from others. You will see some 9s who are actually putting walls so that they don't have to deal with a painful kind of process involved in examining relationships. But when they are actually when they don't have to worry about roles and being accepted, you will see them just like a seeking 6, very free to explore and find who are the people in their area and who are they as individuals.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. So then, I guess the last question on this is, what can others do? What message or what ways can they support someone who's a type 3 for them to grow or for them to embrace, the positive aspects of what they bring to the table and to humanity?
Sure. I think a type 3 would actually, if you are married to a type 3, for example, and I think a type 3 in marriage relationship discover a lot of healing, because the intimacy would bring them an understanding that they don't have to be competitive to be loved. It's just being free of who they are. An unhealthy 3 in a relationship would demand a lot from the other person, time and energy, to actually help them achieve what they are, especially if they are not done yet in measuring their own worth based on their accomplishment. They would focus more on the work, and then a type 2 spouse, for example, would say, hold on a second, can we just spend time with our family? And a type 3 might say, yes, but let's just, this is my priority. Their priority is based on how to preserve role and achieve certain success goals, that would translate into an image of success. So I think what you can do if you're married to a type 3 is allow them to succeed and yet allow them to fail. Because in their failure, it is a very good opportunity to see the value of self in the context of, because if you are the spouse now is given an opportunity to actually embrace them regardless of who they are. Now they are embracing the person, so just support them in their idea of who they are in terms of success. And people, they don't always succeed anyway. I mean, this is a very imperfect world. There's always an opportunity for us to stumble and fall. Allow them to experience that and be there, and then give them the message that you are being loved for who you are, not for what you have achieved.
Come on, man. That sounds like a sermon right there, Doc. You about to preach. You preaching now. You preaching now.
Yeah.
Love them even in their brokenness, even when they mess up, and let them know that they're still loved and that you still want to connect with them. And I think that's a powerful message and a powerful reminder, not only for type 3s, but for all types, is that people still have value, and we can appreciate and love them for who they are. I want to thank you for this beautiful insight that you've given to us today into the type 3, and I pray that they were blessed and others were blessed, so they can grow more empathetic towards type 3s, in understanding their wound, understanding who they are, and then being able to be there and to love on them. So thank you again, Dr. Tio. Appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you too.